there are people out there that have a passion for something, and whether they want to share that passion with others, but they might not know how to get the start of building a local community. So you may be that person. You may know somebody who's that person, and I hope that this video is going to be a good to kind of help you on that track of building a community. So my name is Joe Kage. You guys already know. I've been running tournaments since I was about, I want to say 16 years old, 16 or 17. So it's been nearly a decade at this point. I'm a tournament organizer for a really small community, Vero Beach. Our population's not that big. It's like 20,000 if I'm not mistaken, probably lower. But we are just off the cuff of a really successful tournament where we essentially raised $300 to help send our best players to CEO, which is this major tournament for fighting games. And I wanted to just talk about like starting a community. So there's 5 steps I kind of want to go over, 5 basic ones. Future videos, they'll include more or going in depth on those steps more. But for right now, the absolute basics, there's 5 steps. 1 will have to be finding interest. That's the most straightforward part. 2, finding a place to host these events. Advertising events being the 3rd step. The 4th step is just getting basic supplies and kind of going over what you really need to start things out. And step number 5 is going to be the most obvious part, but we'll get there when we get there. So step 1, finding interest, right? If you guys like something that you do, so I know JV3Dog in chat, he plays that Star Wars Legions game with Liam. I'm not sure if there's many other people that play that game around town, but let's say you have that interest. There's a couple of ways you can go about finding more people that are interested, or just getting your interest group in general. And that would be, well, the first part of that would be you might already have one. I know that's like the lamest step, but you might already have one. You might already have a friend group that plays. This goes out to like anybody who'd be watching the stream. Maybe you just already have a group of friends and that's what you guys do when you hang out. But that would be the easiest way to kind of have an interest group, is just already having one. But let's go into other things about actually finding one. And so that would be seeing if your school has an esports club. I'm going to assume that a lot of people watching this are a little bit younger. Maybe they're in middle school, high school, college. But your high school probably will have an esports club. You just kind of have to look into it and find it. And same thing with colleges. A lot of colleges have esports clubs or esports teams that are getting really, really popular. So just take a look around whatever school you happen to find yourself in, and you'll find one. And if you can't find one, then I would highly recommend talking to a teacher and trying to find one. So let's actually put this on the board. So step 1, right? Finding interest. And then part A of this would be your friends. Your friends. B, find an esports club. Esports club, I guess like anime, like whatever, something, even if it's similar interest, like I don't know, tennis. I don't know, maybe the tennis goons love video game. But you're gonna want to find a club that has at least that exact interest or an exact similar interest that, you know, like a lot of gamers also like anime, so it makes sense that you might like find gamers in an anime club. It just kind of like common sense there, but of going out and finding them is going to be a big step for you. Additionally, we have another thing. It's a little bit of a meme because we are in we're on 2022, and this is like a boomer social media now, but Facebook groups, and for the younger people, Discord servers. So I'm talking about you go on Facebook and your town might already have a group dedicated to whatever game you play. Now, if it's Star Wars Legions, then you might look up Star Wars Legions, but they might not have one that's really niche. But you might take it a step further and look for like board games in the community. I promise you it exists. But if it doesn't, on the off chance that it doesn't, you're going to want to make that Facebook group, and that will help you later, I promise. It's super boomer, but if you really want to go into the modern age Discord servers, and if you can't find one in your local town, look up one that's in the major city close by. If you don't have anything going in your small town, maybe the larger Discord server for a city might have some people in it that are from your town, but they just travel in to play whatever game they play. So that's going to be huge. It's just like basic ways to find people, larger social medias. A lot of this might come off as common sense, but you have to start somewhere. So it's good to have this step one here. Now, I want to say something quick about Facebook groups. Facebook moms, never underestimate the power of a Facebook mom. They're powerful. They're powerful beings. So that's why I have Facebook groups there. But let's say you found your interest. You either created an esports club, or you joined one, or you found a Discord group and you joined it. Step 2 in creating your little local community, because you might already think to yourself like, hey, this community already exists, but this is also going into things like you taking a step further into organizing this to the next level. So step 2 is finding a venue. There's a lot of ways, a lot of venues that you could use. One, actually, maybe I should stick with the ABCs. A, right, college rooms. College rooms, high school classrooms, etc. This is going into the idea of starting an esports club. Maybe there's a teacher that particularly likes esports and you just start it with them and utilize these college rooms and high school classrooms. You're going to have to create a club, like officially if it's colleges, but it's going to be free. And that's a huge thing about that they're absolutely free. But you'll find that when we go into more, that a couple other of these they're all essentially free, but not at the same time. So you're not going to, a lot of these, you might not have to pay the business or something at the end of the day to like exist there. So let's actually go into it. The second one, or it's going to be a list of them. So we're talking about like card shops, comic book stores. Most of the time, they're kind of the same thing. And gaming lounges. This might be in larger cities. They don't really exist in smaller towns. And when they do, they die immediately, like Gamers Roam, etc. These are things that go into line with what your audience is. So all these guys, these types of stores, they don't look like, they're probably not rolling in cash, you know, unless you're in a super huge city and it's just incredibly popular every single day. These stores are probably broke and empty on certain days. Yeah, RP Gamers Roam. And it's simple. You walk up to them and you say, hey, I have a group of people. Even if it's 2 or 3 people, but even if it's like 10 or 11 people, you walk in, hey, I want these people to be in here once a week or once every other week. Oh, this is a good suggestion. Hookah places for older groups. Yeah, if they're into that stuff, if you have an older group. So that's good too. We'll file that under etc. But you walk in and you're like, hey, I want to bring people to your store once a week or once every other week. And if these types of stores say no, something has gone terribly wrong in their mind. Or they're popular every single day. So, you used to have a tabletop store nearby? All right, yeah, see? So these types of places exist. Right there every day after school? Exactly. If it's a gaming lounge, maybe they'll charge entry. But in particular, if it's something that's like on the low key, that you won't charge too much, or you can just say, hey, we'll try to buy the food you guys get, or if it's a card shop, like buy sleeves if you guys play Magic the Gathering, stuff like that. Tiny things that help the venue without exactly them charging you, help support the store. Now, a big issue about that is that your player base might be broke. And that's fine. If you have to use a card shop or something like that, then you just show up every other week. And if you have to like take the brunt of it and you buy a thing or two, like every other week, it's gonna be all right, and it minimizes costs. So look into these first of all. Now let's just get into the third thing. There's gonna be a lot. I have like 5 things here, but we're almost at the end. We're going to say small businesses. Now, you might be thinking, Joe, you just literally listed small businesses, but I'm more so talking about restaurants. I'm talking about bars. I'm talking about like other things. that aren't exactly within your demographics line, like a card shop would be, like these other small businesses, you're probably not going to walk into like an Arby's and say, "Hey, bro, can I chill here every week?" The Arby's people might get you out of there. Oh, GameStop. That's actually really good too for the other thing, gaming lounges, gaming, or game stores, whatever, etc. But yeah, these small businesses, they'll make room for you for the same exact reason why the first list does. But there's one big downside. They will eventually kick you out. They're going to get you out of here. And here's why. These businesses, they don't really, like, your broke demographic is not what they're looking for. They're looking for people with money. Unless you guys are just loaded. You're an older group. You guys play Magic. And you know, like, you're going to sit at a bar and then order their food and get a couple drinks and what have you. So there are circumstances, but a lot of the people are going to be like, they're going to be broke. So they're going to kick you out. If they grow, they're going to ask you to leave. So you have to like kind of find them a day that they are empty and they'll accommodate for you. So you really don't want to go for these. Maybe bars if they're like gaming bars. Actually, we'll put bars, lounges here. So I don't want to talk about this a lot. It's pretty self-explanatory why there's a downside here. But if the card shops, comic book stores, this also falls into the same trap of like if they make enough money, they'll probably ask you to pay more just to host you. But in my experience, they broke. So it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So let's go into the fourth thing on our list, right? Here we go. Churches. Churches are top tier because, one, they love what you do. Unless your gaming group like shoots up heroin just as the part of the game, I don't know what would cause that. But churches, they absolutely love the fact that you are starting a community, especially if that crowd is younger. And let me tell you why. So for anybody who's watching this and they don't know like how things of my tournament started, last June, so about a year ago actually, I was literally driving around town looking for a venue. I stopped by a small business. I walked into this roller rink place, and I walked in and immediately left because I wanted to break down and cry because of how loud everything was. I tried another place like a mini golf course, and we just couldn't come to terms with anything. As a matter of fact, they kind of ghosted me. But I'm driving around town, and I see this dude. He's shirtless. He's outside of a church painting like a wall. And I'm like, I'll risk it. I'll risk it for the biscuit. Whatever. Let's pull up. It's a Saturday. Things are weird. This is probably a hired painter. So I walk up to this homeless looking guy and I'm like, "Hey man, are you part of the church? I actually I host like tournaments and stuff. It's a small gaming community." And the guy turned to me. Turns out this dude was a pastor. Literally walked me to the back section and said, "Hey, you guys could go here. It's a huge room. It's huge. And it could easily host like 80 people." And I'm like, "Oh, you're just okay with it?" He's like, "Yeah, you guys are doing a great thing." Cool. Say no more. And that's where we started running tournaments from that day on. He was just instantly cool with it. They love what you do. If they have a side business, sometimes they'll charge you, sometimes they won't. It all depends. So another example would be like it's a church just has a spot for the church where they gather, but then they have maybe some center where Alzheimer's center. This is an example of another venue, and so that church charges them or what have you because that other business's venue is what's being used. But sometimes they won't, and they'll just be cool with it. You might have to dodge indoctrination. I don't know how to spell it. Indoctrination. You might have to dodge it, but it'll be all right. They also want people to attend the church, so I've used it. I've used it in the past. I've gone to their Sunday service and just show up and support because they all want things that they want at the end of the day. But churches are broken. These are low key, high key. I'll even say high key broken. And lastly, and probably the most important and straightforward, you'll probably think to yourself, well, obviously, this is going to be Yo mama's house. This is the true start of my tournaments. I hosted get-togethers, not even tournaments, like get-togethers, just in general. I was just playing with all my friends, and sometimes there'd be 4 of us, sometimes there'd be 10 of us in a crowded room. But we were young, and so like, you know, my parents didn't really care too much. Eventually, I wanted to start running tournaments, and my parents, they told me I could because they love you. Probably. They love you. And they see that you are starting something. And Smash Bros at Joe's. Yeah, it was Super Smash Bros at Joe. That name was whack. Yeah, so your parents probably love you. The only downside, if you guys live in a small house, it's gonna be hard. So obviously, if you're not rolling in it and you're in a very, very small house, then that's going to obviously point you away from it. But this first point here, that whole thing about them loving you, yeah, they'll probably be cool with it if you're going to host it like once every week, once every 2 weeks. My tournament, Super Smash Bros. At Joe's, I know it's such a terrible name, was bi-weekly if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, look into your mama's house. This is probably the best bet. Unless they're actually going to charge you to run it. I don't know. Maybe your parents are like evil capitalists. Let's go on. Because we're finally out of step 2. You found your venue. You have your interest group. Step 3, obviously, you want to market your event somehow. Now, going into it, there's going to be a list of 4 things here about how you can market your events. The last one is going to cost some money, and that's going to be all right. The first 3 are going to be cheap. They're going to cost basically 0 effort. You just got to put in the legwork. The 4th one is if you're loaded. So first things first, directly ask people. DM them. And this sounds incredibly straightforward, but sometimes people are antisocial. Example, me. I'm not the most outgoing person, or when I was younger, I really wasn't. Now things have changed, but I want to bring this up now. And if you're going to step forward and be a community leader, you're going to have to reach out to people. If you're antisocial and you don't really like to talk to people, you're going to have to get over it. You'll have to get over it. You're going to have to get over being anti-social. And that's reaching out to people that might be strangers. If your interest group are your friends, perfect. You can ask them directly. They'll love it. You already built that relationship. But if you make a Facebook group or a Discord server, or you jump into a sports club and you're not exactly the newest or the longest member that's ever been there, you're a little bit new, then reaching out to people might actually be a little bit hard for you. And it was for me. And I'll tell you this story. The first time I went to Nintendo Dopamine was my esports club. I actually walked into the front door and then came up with an excuse as to why I couldn't go and left because I walked in. I was like, I don't know. I just don't want to. Something stopped me. Something prevented me. The first time I could have gone, I actually didn't go. And it was actually a week later, but I think it was bi-weekly. I think it was 2 weeks later I built up enough courage to jump in. And then unfortunately, I was greeted with GXL, and the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, we're on Battlefield, you lose." And somehow I remained in that club. I fought through the worst of GXL. It was, I don't know. But you're gonna have to get over these things. You're gonna have to get over these things, and it might be a little bit harder than you think. Think of it as walking into a pool. If you walk slowly into the pool, you're going to hate yourself and freeze up because eventually it's going to get to your waistline and it's going to get super sensitive because the water's super cold and it's going to suck. And then you get to your chest line and it gets even worse. But if you just dive in and hit that send button, or you walk up to somebody and say hi, it's gonna work out just fine. You're not going to regret it. So another thing. Let's see. Local Facebook groups. Discord servers. This one's a little bit easier because you could ask people in mass. I would still like directly DM the people within the groups because that next personal touch is really important. But you can ask people in mass. Also, going into the Facebook groups, remember that I said Facebook moms are broken. Facebook moms, Facebook Momo, are broken. They will say things like, my teenager would love this. Or, my kid plays that game. I'll tell them. Facebook moms that don't understand their kids are going to be this crazy, crazy solid source. They're going to run to their kids. And I point out particularly moms because I actually do a little bit of marketing. That's kind of another job of mine. And when it comes to local communities inviting people out to things, women respond the most. The fathers don't care. They straight up don't care. The numbers are like double in the favor of women. So this is why I'm pointing out Facebook moms as opposed to Facebook parents. Facebook moms are broken. They will tell their kids about it. Even you'll run like a Splatoon tournament and some mom will be like, oh, my kid loves playing Splatoon, but their kid doesn't play Splatoon. They play like VR golf. They don't know their kids, but they'll still spread the word. And so maybe that kid that plays VR golf has a friend that plays Splatoon. Whatever. Facebook moms are good. You can ask people en masse. It's just a good source, Facebook groups and Discord servers. Also, if you created your Facebook group or your Discord server in the first part, and you have that group of people, hanging them en masse will spread a lot of news very, 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 very fast. Which is actually the third thing, get people in Facebook groups / Discord servers for that reason I just outlined. The last thing, the last thing. This one costs a little bit of money. Flyers / online marketing. It costs money. Make the worst graphic ever. Make the bummiest graphic. It doesn't matter. As long as it says a time, place, and date, you're good. People aren't going to be like, this flyer is so poorly constructed, I will not attend. They don't care. These people that are looking for this, they're going to be like, oh, this spot is here. And it doesn't matter that you drew Mario in the worst way possible. Just grab like an online graphic of Mario. Nobody's going to care. We all have this meme. There's that giant meme where a company will post like a picture of Melee with all the characters and be like, we're running a Melee tournament. And if you are like a competitive player at all, you see that as this huge red flag. Like, oh, these guys have no idea what they're doing. I promise you it doesn't matter. They're still going to show up. It's happened with Gamers Realm. I saw it happen. I walked into that tournament, entered as the local farmer, won that event, walked out. Easy peasy. People still show up. It doesn't matter how bad the graphic is or how low effort. Create those flyers. Spread them around town. We're talking about GameStop, lounges, gaming bars if you have them, comic book stores, colleges, high schools, maybe middle schools. But depending on how old you are, that might come off as incredibly sus. I'm approaching 24 years old. I'm probably not walking up to a middle school. It might be too late for me to walk up to a high school at this point. I might have to send like a goon in for me. But yeah, so this obviously costs money. If you want them in color, it's going to cost a little bit more. It's not going to break your bank, but just if you're like how old I was when I first started, then you're probably not gonna have a lot of money under your name. So utilize these first 3 steps, A, B, and C here, and you'll get people. Even if it's like 5 people, that's a start. Even if it's just 2 other people, if it's 1 other person, you better be the most charismatic human being of all time, because it might get really awkward. And just hope they're not like 45, because that might be really rough. And it happened at Melhype The Awakening 2. There was a second one. Let's go into step 4. Step 4, getting equipment. Equipment is important, obviously. For any game you play, Now, I play Melee, so you might want to have a console already, a TV, and something to plug it into, and probably controllers. Those are the basics. You need to have one. If you don't have one, you're relying on other people to bring them in. This can backfire, and if it backfires, you better be the most charismatic person of all time to cover yourself. That'll hype the Awakening 2. Now it's starting to make sense, right? So, let's say you play Star Wars Legions, or whatever that game is, something that it's on a board, and then you have to have 1,000,000 pieces. If I was you, I would have at least 2 armies that you have just so you can share with something or someone. That's going to be important. You're going to have to share if you play Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or TC, any other trading card game. Have a spare on hand. That might cost you some money, yes, but how are you going to show up with like 5 people and then have one deck? What are you going to do? Prepare ahead of time. So let's say, and this is for games that are played on a console. Extension cables are cheap. Yay. If you go on Amazon and look up stuff, they might be $20, they might be $35. If you go to your local like Goodwill or Salvation Army or thrift store, they will have the jankiest thing. It has like 6 outlets and it costs $2. You might plug it in and burst into flames, but if you don't, it'll last you for a good amount of time. The only downside of this is if lightning strikes the house you are in and destroys all the consoles, that might suck. But that's not going to happen, probably, hopefully. So get some cheap extension cables. If you need chairs, like if your venue doesn't have chairs, you're going to have to spend some money. Chairs and tables, not as cheap. But you need to sit. Unless you guys are just a group of demons and you're okay with standing on hours on end. Tables and chairs, you can get like the really cheap ones at Walmart for not too expensive. Buy like 3 or 4. Don't break your bank on trying to get these. It's very, very important because eventually when you build your community, people will bring in their own stuff and you don't really have to, like, you can get community support. It's something you can do. So a lot of these things you'll have to buy. Let's see. This last thing is recording equipment. Flash streaming equipment. This, don't worry about this. You don't need recording equipment. You don't need streaming equipment. People will roll up, but if you decide to get some, they come with some good plus sides, and that is competitive players want to see their sets. And casual players want to commentate or do other dumb things like that. So having a setup there will actually benefit both sides. But if you don't have any recording equipment, it's probably going to be like $200. And then you probably also have to have a laptop or a computer on hand. And you got to lug that around. Don't do it. Don't worry about it. It'll come eventually. But if you're going to record like you and your 3 other people playing, they care about the community thing. Don't worry about this big brain scheme. So this step 4 about getting equipment. It's pretty straightforward stuff, but I just wanted to note that you have to have a console or something like that, or cards or decks or what have you, and skimp out on your technology. You can get those for stupid cheap. Oh, perfect example. So I'm running tournaments out my house. It's primarily Melee. It's happening like every couple of months. It's the very beginning. I have a friend, and my friend says, hey, I want to run Smash 4. Sure. You have an interest in Smash 4? We have a lot of people that come out, and I know a huge community of Smash 4 players down south. Cool, let's organize it. It's called Greninja in the Middle. It was the first and the last Smash 4 tournament I ran in my house, I think, because 25 people attend every single time. I'm like, hey, bring setups. We're going to need setups. I don't own a Wii U. I'm not playing these awful games. I'm only hosting it because you guys like it and you guys are my friends. I'm not going to enter this bum tournament. I hate this game competitively. Please bring setups. The day of, one person brings a setup. He's in this chat, I think. He's GXL, the one I was talking about earlier. He was the only person that brought a setup. We're in danger mode. And so we all get there. I'm like, well, this tournament's going to last like 7 hours. You guys want to pitch in for some pizza and soda and just make it a party with the tournament in the background? And that's what we did. And then I never ran a Smash 4 tournament ever again because yikes. But that's just a story. If you can flip things, you can make it work. If you just have one setup, say screw it, let's just hang out. If some people might leave, some people might stay, but you're building like a relationship with the people there, and flip it to make it work. And this actually goes into the final step. The final step, I didn't exactly say what it was, but now that we're here, I just want to say for the people who are maybe watching this when I post it on YouTube later, let me know if you make it to this step. I would like to see some comments. Just say, hey, I got here to get to the final step as I reveal it right now. This final step is going to be incredibly straightforward, but it's actually one of the hardest things to do. At least I found for me. That's be a dope TO / host. You'll be surprised how hard this is. So let me preface this. There are going to be a lot of people that are super antisocial. They play their one game. They really like it. They're not too popular. And they finally found a group of people that share similar interests. And maybe they're like me and they hesitated to enter that club for the first time and ran away. If they walk up to you, you need to make them feel welcomed. Incredibly important. The first Brevard County tournament I ever went to, 45-minute drive north. My dad takes me. I walk up to this house and I open a door, and this guy opens the door and he just treated me as if I was like his younger cousin or like a nephew or something. He was an older guy, but he looked at me and he was like, oh, you're here for the Melee tournament? Sick. He brought me inside. He like introduced me to people and he sat me down next to his brother and he was like, dude, my brother would love to play some games. I felt immediately welcomed. There's a lot of people in chat that are from that scene. Profi is from Brevard County. Lucas was one of the best. He's my favorite tournament organizer. He's my main influence as to why I started the community down here. So you're gonna have to make them feel welcomed. This is difficult because sometimes you're antisocial too. But they need to get that like interaction. It's so important for growth, and it's going to be important for your growth. So thankfully I had a group of friends so I could talk to them already, and there were definitely some times where a friend brought a friend and I just didn't talk to them at all, and maybe they didn't show up again. But like taking that step to reach out to people means so much. I would say it means too much. It means way too much. Gotta make them feel welcomed. Sit down, talk to them, see what gauge where they are, like how they want to play competitively. Do they are just there to have some fun, meet some new. You're gonna have to be nice, and a lot more importantly, make sure everyone is nice and welcoming. And this goes into the most important step of building a community, and that's forming the community to have these kind of like ideals in place where they're all open. They're all like welcoming to new people. You're going to have competitive players that just want to get better at the game and they're not going to talk to new players. That's completely fine. You have to make up for it. I was a competitive player in Melee, and I would attribute the fall of the Melee community in Vero for the time being to me. because I would get all these people to play Melee. I'm infinitely better than the scene was at the time. And a lot of those people, like, they just didn't want to play because they show up to my house and then I dumpster on them. And I'm not really caring about how they feel because I need to train for this bar tournament. And it hurts. It hurts. I'm still friends with all those Melee players. Actually, matter of fact, they're probably like beyond just Melee friends. They're just good friends of mine. But life goes on, and they decided that like gaming wasn't going to be a part of their life all too much, or at least that part of these competitive tournaments. So yeah, be nice. There's a lot of new players that I reach out to. I've started doing this thing after each tournament to thanking people for showing up. I try to reach out to everyone. When I'm running around these tournaments, I'm trying to stop by and make sure that I talk to people a little bit. Hey, how are you doing? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? How are you feeling? Are you having a good time? Did you talk to this person? This person's crazy. This person's dope. They would, oh, you played that character? This person also plays that character. Maybe you should ask them. They'd love to talk to you. And our community is, I hope, and that's for you guys to answer that are in the stream. I hope the community is cool for the most part, and we do talk to people. There are some standout individuals like Noelle is standout. She's great at opening up to people. Gomez FL is also really good at it. Kodiaks I find is really good. A couple of others that I can't exactly name off the top of my head, but this step is the most important if you want to build your local community. Reach out, take that next step. And I keep on reiterating this point of like, you're going to be a TO, you're going to have to be that guy. If you're not that guy, you have to become them. You'll fail. You're going to not welcome everybody. And it's kind of like a curve, right? There's like that beautiful middle point where whatever your get together is small enough to where you don't have a lot of stress and you can talk to everybody. But at the beginning, you're going to be trash at it. And so you're not going to be that good at making people feel welcome. And then it's going to get too big and you can't possibly meet up with everyone. But hopefully at that point, you've like raised your community to do it for you on, in ways by just overall being cool people. So I hope this worked. I hope this helped. This is not exactly the most in-depth guide, but this goes over a couple of basic things that you're gonna want to have to do. So I'll scroll down again. Of course, you guys could just rewind back and go over any of these things. If there's anything else people want to talk to me about, some more specific stuff, let me know in the comments. Yes, this video is going to go on YouTube, people, and Twitch. But yeah, let me know in the comments if there's anything else you guys want to talk about. Please like, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. I do all those things. My Twitter is terrible. I literally just post I'm going live, so maybe just follow the Twitch. Or did I say Twitch or Twitter? You guys know what I'm talking about. But anyways, that's the video. Have a good day.